thinking about your role on campus, the students, they see you as a professor.
Right.
They don't see you as a campus minister in that professional sense, but
Right.
they see you because I've been there. I've been there with you. I've been there with your students. I've gotten to know some of them,
Mhm.
and they do see you as a mentor, as
Mhm.
a pastor to their
Right.
lives, if
Right.
not in a building. It's given you an identity, is the word that we've often used
Right.
among unreached people groups. Is like, who is this guy and why is he here?
Yeah.
You have so talk about that because you have a
Yeah.
very simple but vital answer to that question that a
Right.
lot of the people in so-called, and I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see it, uh, the people who are in ministry of some sort,
Mhm.
they don't have that. So
Right.
talk about how you've learned that and developed that over the years.
Right. Well, I think, in terms of philosophy, we get into philosophy of ministry really quickly, but one of them is there's a lot now with the internet and podcasts like this, you can get all kinds of stuff just without ever having to leave the comfort of your chair, right? But I think what's really lacking is both the modeling and having someone see how this person lives. And the second thing is that since most of the teaching is coming that you get sort of from online sources or your pastor or whatever, it comes from professional Christians. It's easy for them to have sort of a professional Christian um, uh, daily or weekly schedule that they're speaking from, as opposed to the demands and the challenges of working in sort of a daily secularized work. They can't get up in the morning and study the Bible for 4 hours because they got stuff they got to do. And so, how does ministry look when you have a day job? And there's so much discipleship that's done by people who don't have day jobs that it's actually pretty helpful for them to see someone who has a day job, as if you will, and how they think about ministry and discipleship. It's easier for them to relate to, and we just automatically become a model for how they begin to think about it.
Isn't it interesting? First of all, I love the way you're going with that because when Jesus called disciples, he didn't say enroll in my school. He
Hmm.
didn't say subscribe to my podcast
Right.
or even read the book.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he just said, follow me,
Walk with me.
walk with
Yeah.
me. And it is in the midst of daily living
Hmm.
that his disciples learned of him. So
Yeah.
that's a great point you're making. Another thing, as you're talking, it strikes me that this idea of uh, online ministry, and I do it. I can't. I mean, right? But
Hmm.
I have an editor who's going to take every mistake that Bill and I make on this podcast, and he's going to take it out. So you guys will say, "Wow, these guys they think fast, they talk fast, they never make mistakes." He doesn't take all of them out,
Right.
but when you see somebody that is an edited version of reality,
Mm.
you're not actually seeing reality. And so what you're describing to me, Bill, is these guys see you in the good, the bad, the ugly. They see
Yeah.
you, the days when you're walking in quote victory. They see you the
Mm.
days when you just had a fight with one of your daughters,
Mhm.
whatever, right? I mean,
Right.
they see the real Bill Andrews. Why is that different? And why does that matter so much?
Um, well, let me answer that with a story. I think, well, it matters because I think, in today's environment, the whole idea of authenticity is under, Christian authenticity is really under tremendous, it's under the microscope. And the reason is because there's been so many high profile Christians who have, let's just say, not persevered very well. And so let me just sort of give you a particular example. So a number of years ago, I did a sabbatical in Spain with my family, and I taught at a university there. And we were there for about 6 months, and I taught for a semester. And over the course of the semester, I just did my teaching and business stuff, and they without any sort of well, first of all, I bumped into a couple of full-time missionaries, campus workers there from the U.S., And when I first arrived, I asked them, well, tell me what it's like here. What should I expect? How can I be effective? I'd like to try to use my time here to win people for Christ, to be an influence, that kind of a thing. And so they said, well, it's really hard here. We've been here a while and we just get no traction. And I asked them, I said, how do you represent yourself? And they said, well, we represent ourselves as social workers. And I thought, okay. But, I flipped it around. I thought that'd be really, really odd if there were some people that were kind of hanging around my campus that weren't otherwise involved. And we asked them, well, what are you doing here? And they said, well, we're social workers. And,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so so what's the real reason? Are you working for the CIA? Are you drug dealers? That's code for
Yeah.
something. What is it?
Yeah. What's the truth here, right?
Yeah. And so, but they basically said it was a really hard country to penetrate. They couldn't get anybody to come to their Bible studies. They're really struggling. And these are folks who'd been trained and who knew the language. And so I said, well, okay, we'll see what happens. So I began to teach my courses. And so by the end of the semester, we finished up, as we were finishing the course, I invited the students. I had about 20 or 25 in my class. I said, I would love to share with you from the Bible about the true meaning of life. It's totally not related to the class. I would like to invite you to my home. And nobody has to come. It doesn't affect your grade, but I would really love to share this important part of me with you. And I'd asked these two missionaries, I said, do you think I'm going to get any traction here? Should I try to do this? And they said, I don't know, you might get one or two. And I said, well, okay, that'll work. I'll start with one or two. And so the short version was every single person except maybe one or two showed up that evening and apologized profusely for the ones who couldn't make it. I said, I'm so sorry, I can't make it. I'd love to do it. And so it was a very simple gospel presentation, and it was a real pin drop moment. They were like, wait, what? How is it we could have missed this? I've been going to the local church for, which is, more of a formalized tradition, if you will. And they taught an ethic. They never taught anything about salvation through Christ. And how is it that we've missed this? And so shortly after that, I left. And I had heard people actually said, it's amazing. After you left, there was an enormous amount of discussion about, what could this mean? How could this be so? How did I miss it? So I wish that I had been more closely aligned with a church while I was there, so I could kind of funnel these people there. So that I certainly didn't do everything right, but the point I want to make is that I had a legitimacy there because I had a day job that my friends and colleagues, if you will, who were had sort of the missionary hat on, struggled to get. And not only that, but I also had if you will, a cultural integrator and a cultural interpreter, if you will, who basically, the person who hired me, they were responsible to make sure that I integrated into the faculty community and these kinds of things. So that was super helpful. And then one other thing is, towards the end of this 6 months there, one of the fellows came up to me and said, so you are a Christian, right? And I said, well, yes, I'm a Christian. And he goes, it's very hard to be a Christian, isn't it? And I said, well, yes, it's impossible. And so, because I knew where his head was. And he said, yes, impossible. He goes, what do you mean by that? And so it was a natural entree into the gospel. And I didn't wear a sticker that says, Jesus loves you or anything like that. But just by little simple things like not womanizing, not using profanity, being gracious and patient with people, just some very basic Christian virtues. Perhaps because the ambient darkness, they saw the light. They said there's something different here. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that I was daily with these people, as you pointed out, gave me a platform that I might not have had otherwise.
So we use the term identity. You use the term legitimacy,
Mm-hmm.
but it means the same thing, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
again, why? Who are you? Why are you
Why are you
here?
here?
And in any culture,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have a real answer to that people can wrap their heads around, that they hear what you say and they say that doesn't smell right,
Right.
that doesn't sound right, then they're going to assume the worst. We
Yeah.
tease about it, but it's really true. But here you went, you were a visiting professor,
Mm-hmm.
you were endorsed by the university,
Right.
you use that platform, that
Mm-hmm.
I want to say platform, that almost make it sound fake. You
Right.
use that legitimacy
Mm-hmm.
to open doors and build relationships and ultimately to be able to share Christ.